Hey, and welcome back to the Wicked Wild Podcast, a feral podcast for the uncivilized horror fans and OMG, where are my spooks fans? Because it is October. And that means that it's time for another Camp Wicked Wild. It is our third annual Camp Wicked Wild special spooky season event. And this year is going to be a whole lot less wiener and a whole lot more winter. Because our theme for this year, for this October, is Survivor Camp. Or Survivor School. See, I've already screwed it up. It's Survivor School.
I'm just glad you went the direction you went, because when you said it's not the year of the wiener, I was like, where's it going with this? Where's it going with this?
So we actually, each of the hosts has actually picked a movie that highlights what they consider the best in class survivor of a horror movie. And we're going to get into those and talk about them here real quick. But before we do, I'm going to introduce you to our hosts tonight, starting with Eli up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How's it going, Eli?
Oh, you know me, living the dream.
So let's just say that you're working at a local video store.
Of
and
course.
Your crush, Casey, comes in one night to rent some scary movies to watch. What are you recommending to her to get on her radar, to throw a little riz her way?
I'll tell you, this is a serious question, because this one movie could potentially change my life. And I want to get in her brain like a little parasite, which can't get rid of. Thinks about me all the time. So I want something that's, like, ooh, that's scary, but something that's gonna automatically, as soon as she hears about the movie, think of me. I think there's only one movie I can choose, and that'd be The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Legend of Boggy Creek.
That's the only movie I can choose. Because hear me out, right? The ending, you got a little bit scary. Also, where I grew up, there's people like that in real life. So, like, inevitably she would run into one and think, oh, I need Eli to protect me. And also, it's a funny, good time, like me. And I can make up random songs on the spot, just like those songs in that movie.
And if she comes back to turn in the rental and tells you it's the dumbest movie she's ever seen, she's not the one.
She's dead to me. From that moment on, she's dead to me. If let's just, not you, Jamie, you don't count Trucy Twins. You're a separate, listen, Jamie, you're a separate class of your own, okay? You're in a separate class of your own.
You have immunity? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Jamie has immunity. There's always a seat for her at the Mo King table, okay? But let's just say this case person who would be dead to me, and let's just say, I don't know, a day or two, I find out she was brutally murdered. I'm like, well, that's what happens when you don't like Boggy Creek and you're not Jamie with your immunity protection. Those would be my exact thoughts, Dave.
Seems like there's some deleted scenes we fleshed out here already. And
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything. And also, no one's going to suspect me of doing anything because they're like, well, that kid likes Boggy Creek. Only the best people
like give you immunity because you like Boggy Creek.
That's how that works.
And going next to Jamie, our immunity princess this evening. How's it going, Jamie?
It's going well.
So let's just say that you decide to skip class. I'm sure it's not something you've ever done. That was not your high school MO at all. But let's just say that you did.
Student and child.
And you decided to hide out in the girls' bathroom. You went, you're in there hiding out, waiting for the class to get in so you can bounce. And you hear a couple of basic girls just trashing one of your classmates who just lost her mother a year ago. What are you doing in that situation?
I'm staying hidden. I'm sorry.
You could care less.
I'm a wuss. I'm staying hidden. I don't want any part of mean bitches in high school. I'm sorry. I was not the person.
You were not immune to them. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm sorry. I know what I would do. And this will usher in the next. I would probably call my younger sister to come take care of the situation for me because that's what I would do right now. So
fair enough.
I talk a big game. I got nothing to follow it.
Well, and to follow up that story in a Wicked Wild first, we can complete that story by actually turning to Tammy, Jamie's sister, our special guest host this week. How's it going, Tammy?
It's going well, and that is exactly what she would do. That is true.
And you would take care of business, it sounds like.
And I would take care of business, yeah.
So how is it down in Texas?
It's warm. It's warm.
It's still warm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still warm.
Even in October.
It doesn't get not warm until like December. Yeah. We people joke about females dressing scantily on Halloween here in Texas, they do it because it's hot as shit.
It's just practical.
And it's practical. Yeah. Like it's absolutely practical to wear nothing on Halloween because it's like 95 degrees still in October. So.
And you dare somebody to say something about it too.
Yeah, totally.
So I've got a little, let's just say a scenario for you as well, Tammy. So let's say school has been let out early because there's been some mysterious killings in your area. And
would you say that maybe like school was out for summer, or?
I might say that. I might, and that actually is pertinent to the question. So your buddy Stu invites you to come to a small get together, very casual, low key get together at his house. And he asked you to be in charge of the music. So what's on your mix CD you burn as you head out the door to go to Stu's house?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good.
So you picked the right person. Like, you might be here for an hour.
That we would. Yeah.
Give me your opener and closer then. How's that?
Okay. Oh my gosh. My opener. Oof. My opener would be Don't Fear the Reaper.
Solid.
Ooh.
Solid.
And my closer would be
Torn. It'd be Torn, right?
My closer would be Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That's a great song. So,
I want to go to this party now.
Yeah. It's a good party.
I think Stu would approve too. Knowing his energy, he'd be all for that.
Some people think you got to close it with like a slow, but I think you got to close it like leaving them wanting more. You
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
So Call Me Maybe is like objectively the best pop song.
Where is the night going to go?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the energy we've got tonight. We hope you'll stick with us as we get into Scream from 1996, a review that has been a long time coming. It's not necessarily on theme, but we do what we want around here, especially in October. But before we get into that, I am going to hand off to Eli to give us this week's paranormal investigation update in a little section we call Wicked Whispers.
Dave, there's been 2 stories come out this week that caused me to scream into the abyss. And at least one of them is kind of contracted. Before I start that, let's start the first one. A company came out this week that they have built the first AI-controlled home robot that can help you with stuff around the house. I see. I saw what you did there, Jamie.
Yeah,
this is just the start. No, this is just the start. This is just the start, people. It's got AI and a robot in your house that it charges, but it can work while it's plugged in. So now you're not even safe from the battery dying because it'll just plug itself in and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to murder you with my 50-foot cord now. They want one in every home. They're like, oh, we're going to build, it's going to be one in every home to help you home. This is a start, people. Skynet, instead of going the military route, they're going into your home, places you sleep. You know who doesn't sleep? An AI-controlled robot. Do you know what it can do to you in your sleep? Smack you around, beat you up, kill you. I don't know. So that's happening. So
I've never seen somebody get so riled up about Rosie the robot.
Listen, that is propaganda. Okay, Dave. Rosie the robot.
That's a callback that most of our audience will never get.
We're not heading towards the Jetsons. We're heading towards Terminator. Okay. That's what's coming. So just so you think that's bad enough that now they want to throw robots controlled by AI in our homes, a former military person came out with the whistleblower thing and was like, aliens have been here for a long time. They're blended in with humanity. Government hasn't said anything because we don't know who may be aliens and we don't want to upset them.
They lost track of them.
Basically. So now, not only do you have to be afraid of the robot that's inevitably going to be in your house, just doing your dishes and helping you clean up a bit. Also, aliens could be next to you on a bus or a train or in the line at Golden Corral. You know what, though? Now I say that, I don't know if aliens would go to the Golden Corral. I don't know if they could respect that kind of fine dining experience. You know what I mean?
I have a question.
Sure.
Have we found that there have been any alien AI?
I think they all are, right?
Thanks for the new nightmare. No, I have to imagine that because aliens are so advanced and so far ahead, they realized the mistake AI was because they watched the Terminator. They know.
They watched the Terminator. That's how they learned.
Listen, probably made the Terminator like years ago, years before Terminator.
It's a documentary.
They probably sent it to us as a warning, like, "Hey,
don't
do this." And like we're just like, "No, what's the problem?" like, because here's the thing, right? If you would have told me 10 years ago that the world would have followed the AI steps almost like they did with Skynet to the T, I would have said never. But that's what we're doing. They're making robots that look just like the T100s at Boston Dynamics, which is the most absurd thing I ever heard in my life. And then one company came out and goes, oh, we made a 3D printer that can print titanium so they can print themselves and change their specs to upgrade themselves because they'll be able to do it faster than we can. Sure. Okay. Let's just give Palpatine all the lightsabers. Okay. Those you Star Wars nerds. Let them just cut us all down. Great thinking, world. I tell you. I am one more crazy news coming out away from getting in my underwear and going in my mole cave that I've hidden in a remote location.
And on that point, I think it's important for us, and maybe the audience would want to play along, but I would ask each of our hosts just to, quietly text me and let me know which of our hosts tonight you think could most potentially be an alien. And
Eli.
No. See, wait. I'm thinking it's Dave because he's trying to put discourse. He's setting this up. That's something an alien would say, Dave.
I'm thinking an alien would hide in plain sight. I think I might be with Jamie. I mean, just some of your fixation with feces and your need to be in the mole kingdom.
Listen, no, hold on. No, wait a minute. Feces is funny always, okay? And it's more useful than people know. Did you know?
Oh, no.
Mary showed me a TikTok trend where people are starting to do poop facials.
Nope.
No, stop.
No, thank you.
Wow.
Yep.
So Mary has just chosen to become part of the problem, it sounds like.
I would never do that.
Why is she encouraging this?
But there are people rubbing poop on their own faces.
Oh,
historically speaking, that's only something you saw that a monkey would do in a zoo. But now apparently people are doing it.
Or an alien.
I wouldn't do it, so then I'm not an alien. See?
Fair enough. Well, on that note, we are going to get back into our movie review for this week. And as I mentioned, it is 1996's The Original Scream, not the Scream 6 that chose to be so cowardly that it just took the name Scream instead of being Scream 6. This is Scream, the real Scream. And as we do every week, we're going to do our on-the-fly synopsis to kick off Camp Wicked Wild this week. And since we have a guest, I'm going to ask Tammy a question. The answer to that question will dictate which of the three of the rest of us will have to give a quick synopsis of this movie. So, Tammy, your question tonight is, if Scream were to birth a spin-off movie franchise a la The Nun, Aliens versus Predator, something like that, which one of these would you most want to see as a spin-off of the original Scream? I'm going to make three quick pitches to you. You tell me which which series you're into.
Is each of you one of the pitches?
Yes.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay.
Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you cannot. Eli gets mad every time, so don't worry.
I didn't get mad last time. You're right.
You didn't get mad last time.
So the first one is The Dewey Chronicles, which is an X-Files style paranormal investigation with our favorite Deputy Dewey.
Okay.
Second is The Rules, which is a series of horror comedies where Randy gets put through classic horror movie plots and calls out the rules of survival along the way.
Okay.
Could be a fun series. Then you've got Gale Force, a series of found footage movies based on Gale Weathers' expose journalistic investigations into serial killer cases. Which one of those series would you prefer to have had over the sequels that we've got?
Oh, that's rough. See, I'm a sucker for found footage, but I actually think that the Randy one sounds the most fun.
Really? Fantastic. Yeah, I think Randy would make a great lead character.
He would make a great lead. Like, if I'm going to have to watch one of them do their own spinoff, like Gail's classic, but I don't think she could hold her own, you know?
She couldn't carry a franchise.
I don't think she can carry, I don't think she can be the lead in the franchise, right? Yeah. She's a great secondary character for the Scream series. Yeah. Whereas Randy, I think I could watch a Randy spinoff.
Yeah, he has the swagger.
Look at Eli waiting to hear that he's Dewey, because
I know it's happening, and I'm Randy.
Doesn't matter what
Dewey.
Oh well, this is my little spooky season gift to you, then, Eli. You were always Randy. So,
wow.
Here's the synopsis of this movie. I'm the old guy who's not really the cool teen. I'm the awkward old guy.
Okay, so if you're looking at it that way, you said conspiracy and whatever else.
Listen, when Randy, that's who I was in high school. Okay. But about movies and Lord of the Rings.
You don't have to convince me. Okay?
Yeah, we know. We're very aware.
Just point that out there. Hey, Scream This little ditty, brought to you by Wes Craven, follows teen Sydney as murders start appearing in her town. It appears she is one of the targeted victims as her and her group of friends try to survive the mayhem and shenanigans that are occurring.
And that's all you need.
That's all you need.
That's Scream.
Scream.
It's that clean.
I slipped shenanigans right in there.
I know you did. Shenanigans.
You forgot to TM it though, so now anybody can use it.
TM. Anytime I say TM once, that's a Mole King TM for life. Okay, so that follows me for life.
All right, Tammy. Well, welcome to the Wicked Wild podcast. I hope you appreciate our energy. But tell me what you think of Scream. Did you see this in theaters when it came out? What has been your impression? What do you think of this movie?
I did. I was just talking to Jimmy about this. I'm almost positive that we saw it together, but not together, because we were at the age where we were like not friends yet. Jamie and I were very good friends when we were younger, very good friends when we were like 20 something, and we were like not friends in between. So somewhere between the ages of like 12 and 19, we weren't really friends.
Are you telling me that when you all were teenagers, there was angst in your house?
Crazy, right? Could you believe it? Between two sisters. So I was probably around 12 or 13 when this came out, not to date myself. And I remember I went with my friend Renee to go see this in theaters, and Jamie went with a bunch of her friends, and we sat like she sat up here and I sat back here or something like that. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. I remember, it's hard to remember what I thought, but I remember I liked it. I remember, like at the time I was very much obsessed with like 80s horror movies. And, this was the beginning. I'm sure we'll talk about this, but this was like the beginning of like the 90s, the real like 90s surge of like horror movies. And so I hadn't really seen this sort of like modern teen slasher yet. And I remember just being like, whoa, like this is so cool, and obviously I didn't see the twist coming. The whole time I was trying to figure out what was going on. So yeah, I loved it the first time I saw it.
Fantastic. So what did you think in this last watch? What have you held on to? Is this one that you go back to very often? What stands out to you?
Yeah. No, this is one I hold on to often. And I actually my most recent watch was just a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago. And I watched it with someone who had never seen it before.
Oh, well, that's fun.
I know. And I was very concerned about whether it held up watching it fresh, right? And it did. Apparently, did not see the twist coming, really enjoyed it, found it funny, and I was just very, right? A movie becomes so much of like your life. It's hard to see it like objectively with fresh eyes. And I was just I was terrified the whole time. I was like, oh God, what if it's so predictable now when you watch it, like after having seen so many other movies?
Or do they criticize something that's precious to you? That can be hard too. Yeah. Right.
And some movies, I get it. I'm I'm a basket case apologist and things like that. Like you can criticize those movies and I get it. Right. But Scream is, I don't know.
You should like it. Everybody.
Jamie and I were just talking about that. It's hard not to like that movie. I don't think I've ever met anybody who is actually I hate that movie. It sucks. Yeah. Oh no. Does Eli hate that movie? Does he think it sucks? Okay. I felt like he was going to be the contrarian,
Well, you know what? You and I are going to get along.
It's because you're an alien.
I'm not in it. Don't you put them lies out there about me.
All right, Eli, tell us about your experience with this movie. Was this your first watch?
No, actually, it was not. Scream, I did not see it in theaters, but it was one of those ones where I used my grandma's rental account at the little local store that they probably should have let me do it, but they believed me. I said, oh, my grandma wants me to rent this. Don't know why. They always believed me. Didn't matter. I watched this movie. I loved it. I still love it to this day. I love the first three. I don't even care. I will argue that to end of days, but the first one, chef's kiss. Especially considering slashers had kind of died down, and you're just getting kind of the big ones that were still making the movies, but this was a new one. The costume looked cool. The story was cool. Sydney was one of my first crushes. How could she not be? She wore a jean jacket.
She wore the hell out of that jean jacket.
That's a West Virginia tuxedo if I ever saw one. Randy was me. That was me. Like that was me growing up. So I would argue that he was a hero in this movie. Some people say no, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're wrong. The story was awesome. The twist was great. I remember like when I watched it, because like I love Wes Craven. I know people have feelings about him. I loved him. This was like, it had his like level of kind of realism in it, but then it almost with the mystery kind of felt a little bit Alfred Hitchcock style, which I really dug. I just love this movie all around. Everything about it, so good. Cast was great. It's not a single miscast. Even though the first time I was convinced Henry Winkler was the killer, first time I watched it.
Me too.
Don't trust Henry Winkler. I still trust him.
He was
definitely
aggressive.
a moment where I also thought it was.
He was
Henry
very
Winkler.
aggressive.
Yeah. Now he reminded me of teachers because, like, you know, I grew up I went to a country school where the teachers were like praying for the day they would reverse the ban on teachers spanking kids with a paddle. So, like, those are the kind of teachers I went around. But I was just like, I don't trust Henry Winkler. He looks odd. But I love this movie. I love it so much.
Fair enough. All right, Jamie, tell us about your first experience. I know when it was. Luckily. Did you saw this in theaters?
So I saw this in theaters. Something else Tammy can confirm is I have probably watched this movie more than I have watched most movies in my life. I was obsessed with this movie. It is still, so no surprise, I mean, one of my favorite fucking movies of all time. Obsessed. I had posters, I had scripts, I had fucking soundtracks, and then we're in the 90s, so it's harder to find this shit. Let's remember that. T-shirts, everything I could have that had to do with this movie. I watched it on a continuous loop on VHS. Yes, I wore this shit out of this thing. My mom wouldn't come in the room because she hates the opening of this movie, which is the best opening of any movie ever on the planet. But Dave, as all of us here, the rest of us are not, as a father, maybe you feel my mom's pain. She could not watch that fucking scene. She loathed it. And anytime I had it on, which was continuously on the couch, she had to walk out of the room because
that's kind of precious.
I will say that I've come to like understand. I'm not a mother, but I have come to, as an adult, I have come to understand like that seems pretty rough.
Yeah.
Especially when she says Casey, baby, when she hears her.
It's pretty rough. I could understand why she hated it so much.
But so this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't even have to say much more. I mean, between just the humor in this movie, the twists in this movie, the red herrings in this movie, everything that is done in this movie. I have seen it in theaters. I have seen every single one in theaters. And another cute point is I have seen every single screen with one of my oldest and dearest friends, Nicole. And so even as far as the most recent two, took one of my other oldest and dearest friends' daughters, who is now 10, but so she's been going since she was 8. So the next generation, we are taking her with us now. So Eli, I also love I love the original 3. I actually still love 4, and we could talk about that. I don't like 5 and 6, but I will continue to see them all in theaters, if only to go with Nicole and until this thing runs itself into the ground. I did say I was going to protest if Sydney was not in them anymore. So, but like now she's going to be in 7, so I take that back. We're going to talk about this. I have nothing to say beyond that. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. What else? That's it. I'm ready to discuss this movie, and I put it on today because in honor, and obviously it's a rewatch for me. Obviously, anytime it is on, it will be on my television. I rewatched it today, and I got so fucking giddy at just even the phone sound in the beginning. Like, this movie is, even like Tammy said, it's not even, it is pure nostalgia, but it's also just like, it's a great fucking movie. And it is interesting that she watched someone who's never seen it, because I know that actually we previously were hoping to get Jeff to watch this, because Jeff, I think, said he never saw it. And I was like shocked and couldn't understand, and then was so curious what he would think in a modern. But this movie fucking holds up. Like, I don't care. I know we all have seen it a million times, but I can't see you watching this and being like, that's a shit movie. Because besides maybe a line here and there that might be like silly or corny or whatever, but it still works.
So good.
The movie is fantastic. It's so good.
I like Jamie. I was the same way. Because I used to stay at my grandma's on the weekends, and every weekend I'd go and rent it. And I distinctly remember the guy behind the counter one time went, which is weird. It's a small town. They all knew my grandma. No one ever thought to ask her, I guess. But they're like, grandma really likes this movie, huh? And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's just
they knew it wasn't your grandma, Eli.
She's a big Skeet Ulrich fan.
I like to think I'm a really good actor.
Who isn't?
Okay, I like to think I'm a good actor. And they were like, man, feel bad for
Tammy and I
this
have
boy.
a Skeet Ulrich story, not major story, but
We
yeah.
do,
Yeah. So this movie, I think I've seen this movie more times than I've seen most movies. If simply just even between the ages of, what was this, 96? So 14 to 7, like the amount of times I put this on. This is like, we always talk about comfort movies. Obviously, my comfort movies have changed a little bit. This one isn't Evil Dead 2013 or Terrifier, but like this, the start of my comfort movie. Maybe Pet Sematary. Tammy and I were obsessed with that. And then this was like my comfort movie. Like anything this went on. So
any big life happenings,
anything.
Scream is with you.
This is the back. Yes. Scream has always been with me.
Well, this is one that, and like everybody else has said, I always wonder, and you do this with your, cherished movies, is this going to be the one time too many? Because honestly, it's a 28-year-old movie. Oh. And I've seen it at least 28 times then. And I have just made my peace with, I'll never not love this movie. This movie it's one of those rare occasions to where, and in my opinion, and we can talk about it if we want to, but this is Wes Craven at his best. This is each of these actors at their best. This is horror in that next chapter. You had mentioned it, Tammy. This was the start of the new Hollywood horror change in direction. This I would say was part of that. But I saw this in theaters, and then the next weekend took everybody I could with me to see it again. And I was thinking back to that and trying to remember because 1996 was the year I got married, just to age myself here. My wife and I got married, a whole new point in my life, whole new season of life. We moved to the other end of the state where I didn't know anybody. I was starting a new college program. I didn't have a lot of people in my life, but I went to the theaters quite a bit. And because my wife hates horror movies, if it was a horror movie, I went by myself. But this was one that I think the marketing was pitch perfect for this. It did everything it was supposed to do, including the lies that the trailers and the marketing told you about Drew and her part in this, because she was the biggest actor in this and they used her perfectly.
It's her comeback too.
Exactly. Yeah.
From drugs and alcohol and everything. I used to be a huge Drew Barrymore fan too. I forgot that little fact. We'll get there.
And used her fantastically. But this movie, and honestly, this is the movie that I like to use as a primer for people because there's so much of modern horror's skeleton and DNA in Scream. Like this movie had that big an impact on the genre, in my opinion. Yeah. And I'll never forget, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell now. And I actually was talking to her about this last weekend. When my daughter was interested in October in getting in and watching some of my favorite horror movies, she was probably 16, 17 years old. But she is like me. She's highly imaginative and she gets way too into movies. So horror is hard for her because it kicks her anxiety in. It does for me too, but I use it as a cathartic tool. But when I put this one on, and of course, obviously I'm going to recommend Scream to her. I told her, I said, look, the first 10 minutes are the worst part. If you can get past the first 10 minutes, you'll be spun up. You'll have the momentum to carry you through the rest of the movie. I promise. But that first 10 minutes is going to be rough. She made it 3 minutes. Like she got way too in her head and everything is happening so fast and she wants it to stop. And she just walked out of the room. And the next year, she went to a friend's house for Halloween night and they watched Scream, just the two of them. So it's kind of great that the next generation of my family has this really sweet memory with this movie too. Like she just needed me not to be in the room. She wanted to do it with her friend, which was fun. But I love the characters in this so much. Like I said, I think everything just worked very well. They're generally smarter and more complicated than characters in movies up to that point. There's so much fan service in this. I mean, this is a rich movie. I mean, right down to, I saw something for the first time in my watching last night of this movie. Like when Carrie is running through the house and she goes to the front door and looks out and comes back in, that painting on the wall is Last House on the Left. Mm-hmm. Like it's a painting of the girl floating in the pond of Last House on the Left. I'm like, I've watched this friggin' movie 30 times and I'm just now saying there's just so much to kind of surprise you within this movie. The killer reveal in this movie is the greatest example in horror, period. I think the reveal of this movie changed the game. one of the best soundtracks. We have mentioned that. And the thing that amazes me, to the point you just made, Jamie, this is a 30 or 28-year-old soundtrack. This is still a relevant set of music curated for today. This soundtrack could be in a 2024 movie. I mean, because none of it is pop fan service. All of it is really clever, but it's all very relevant to the movie themes and energy. But there's not a hit in the movie, but there's also all bangers in this movie. Like,
yeah,
I literally like still hear Red Right Hand.
Oh, first of all, that's the best fucking song ever.
Like to this day, that song is still used as like a horror movie.
But also, like, you're right, Dave. You know how you watch a lot of 90s, whatever, and you go, oh fuck, it's 90s.
That's 90s,
whatever. This movie, no matter how many times I watch it, you're right. That once does a song make me go, and maybe even the other ones do. 2 has some 90s, whatever in it. But no, right. This one has just you couldn't tell the decade if you just went off music. You're like,
yeah, you could throw the soundtrack into a playlist and play it somewhere, and nobody's going to say, "Where did you get this from? Whose dad's playlist is playing?" At least in my opinion. But I am a dad, so I probably am not the right person to ask about that. I love that. I love that Ghostface is not an unstoppable force. That's the first time we had seen that in a long time. Like, it is obviously a human being, and he gets the crap kicked out of him throughout this movie, but he just keeps coming. And he reacts to having the crap kicked out of him like a real person would. Like when you kick him, he grunts and falls, and you literally feel him having to struggle with having this stupid plastic mask on his face. Like he's running into stuff, and he's tripping over himself, and he's banging into refrigerators and stuff like that. And then somehow all of that makes him more frightening to me. But as far as a new era killer, I can't think of one who hits like the classics do other than Ghostface. I mean, he's just that strong of an image. But that's my overall thoughts on it. Like I said, I love this movie. I think we all know at this point that there should be no surprises, audience, of who put this on as their survivor pick. I mean, it was Jamie. Jamie is Sydney Prescott team all the way for survivor. And we're going to get into that in a minute. I'm going to let her open up with any questions or anything you want to talk about further.
No, I figure I'll start. It's not even a great one, but I thought you might like why I picked Sydney, and we could each do, when we get to our movies, or why, besides that, again, I love this movie more than anything. And it gave me an opportunity for us to discuss the best movie of all time.
Because you do what you want.
But and I do what I want. But Sydney, when people talk, and to your point, this is a 28-year-old movie, so we can't say it's new horror anymore. This is a fucking horror classic, without a doubt. This is hands down in the horror genre as one of the best horror movies. But like, people say final girl, I feel like they say Laurie, spoiler, or like they bring up some of like the other ones that have been in it once or twice, Nancy. But it's just like no one, I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, and we still go to horror conventions, all of us. We still do. We are very prominent in the horror community, all of us. But I feel like Sydney does not get her due for being in fucking 6 fucking movies and surviving 6 fucking movies. And up until 5, 1 through 4 are always coming after her or someone. It has been Sydney's story for 4 fucking movies. Now, 5 and 6 are abominations to that, but now apparently rumor is 7 is spoiler alert, is going to revolve around Sydney again, because she is the best fucking part of this story. But like, she is my ultimate final girl. She's been in more movies than all of these girls. I don't want to hear about Jamie Lee Curtis because she was fucking killed, and they retconned that, and because they needed to put her in more movies.
She was also only in like 2 movies. Like people think like Jamie Lee Curtis,
the new ones, and
she was in
6. How many?
No, she's been in 4. She was in 1, 2,
and H2O,
H2O, and not Revelation, whatever that.
She dies in that one. Resurrection.
Yeah, but she was in it. Then she was in the 2 new ones. The 3 is a trilogy.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about
trilogy.
The new one. Anyway,
point being, I knew she would. That's the argument. Is she's been in more. She might be the only person who's been in more, but she does not count because they rebooted. This is a series that has never been rebooted. It just continues, and Sydney has been the fucking final girl in every single one, including in 4 when she says my favorite line, and she says, "Don't fuck with the original." I'm sorry. Sydney is hands down the best final girl. And I will die on that hill.
Listen,
hill. I will die on the final girl hill. That's
Jamie, I want to do something I've never done on this podcast before. I'm going to admit.
Agree with me? No, I'm joking.
Take off your human mask.
Listen, no, I'm not even.
you're not going to take off your
Sydney is one of my favorite final. She is not my favorite, but what I will argue is Sydney is probably the best final girl in terms of the smartest and the way she fought back. Like in the first 3 movies, I'm not counting any of those later ones. Because like for 1 through 3, each movie she gets smarter, and it makes it harder for them to come after her. But even in this first one, like the trick she's doing with the doors, like thinking enough to like open and close doors a certain way, which first off, whoever designed that house was a fucking madman. All those doors.
Her house, you mean her house, right? Like,
yeah. Or the
they were trying to invoke Gozer is what they were doing.
The party, Stu's house.
But like,
they go from
just
like
her character having the quick thinking of like doing like manipulating the doors so that they go locking each other. And then you watch in the other movie, she gets smarter about caller ID, and then she gets smarter about doing this. And like, I will say, out of all the final girls in horror, like I said, one of my favorite, not my favorite, but I will agree with you in terms of she is the best because she's probably the smartest. And you never once with Sydney feel like it's just her running to the end. Like she's whooping ass and taking names the whole way there. She's cashing some checks on some asses, if you know what I mean. And she's
I mean, similar to like Ripley, as we just did like Alien, not that she's in the new one, but Alien is on my brain because recently this year we did Alien and I watched all of them and we know that, but like similar to Ripley, who stops giving a fuck. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's harder and harder as it goes on. And I mean, more like armor, like her defense, it just gets like,
more of a survivalist,
yeah. I'm gonna fucking. That's it. And even like you said, by the end of 1, she's taking care of business, but she's still a little. But then by 2, even she's just like, and it just gets more and more from there. So anyway,
she's definitely like I would say one of the top final girls that like deserves to be a final girl. Like that is not just right. We watch all these movies and we're like, she would never have survived in real life. Yeah. Like like Sydney actually feels like one of the final girls that would be a final girl. Like she's fighting back. She's like you said, she's smart. She gets smarter every movie. Like
there's final girl that's just final standing, and then there's final girl who did something about it, which is what we're doing.
Yes, she earned the final girl title. She does. She's not just happened to be the last one standing. Like she earned that title.
Yeah.
Like
and to the point you made earlier, and I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right too. Part of that is that you as an audience, she is your path through the movie, and you are literally, as she is, trying to pick up the clues and figure things out and make decisions and react to things in real time, like Sydney is. Like she is having very natural reactions to the world around her that are easy for us to put ourselves in her shoes, right? Yeah. Which makes her very evocative as a character.
And part of that, I feel like, too, was the way the whole movie is written to be like a parody, right? Like so many moments in it are her admitting, I should not be doing this, but now I understand why all the girls do this because I don't have a choice. Like, right?
Run upstairs instead of the front door.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like her having sex with her boyfriend, right? Like so many of these moments.
Breaking the rules.
Right. So many of these moments, she's literally playing the character of like, I know I shouldn't do this, but now I understand why people do this. Mm-hmm. And therefore she makes herself more believable as a character, Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, for sure. And it also helps with how they establish her in those, these things in the first movie. I will defend the second and third movies because she just has to get to the double tap. But you're rooting for other characters to be with her. Which is like this cool thing because like the second and third one made you care about the other characters. You're like, well, Sydney's smart. Sydney can figure this out.
Yeah.
And so then now you're like hoping the other characters around her can, which is like something that not a lot of franchises have been able to do.
It's a fact.
I mean, I've said, and we'll see where this goes, but I've actually said as a series that, because of 5 and 6, I think has gone on more than it should. But if you give me back to Sydney's story, I'll let it go. Fine. But I have said the one mistake I do truly believe they can make at this point with this series is killing Sydney. I think at this point, she has proved to be an unstoppable force, not in the way that we think of, but you want to kill Gail. I was going to mix both names. You want to kill Dewey. You want to kill Gail. You want to kill anybody else at this point. Yeah, we'll be sad, but it's their time.
Yeah.
You can't kill Sydney at this point. You killed Lori and you brought her back in Halloween 18, and that's fine. But like Sydney, cannot die or Scream dies, in my opinion. And that to me was proved by like 6. So she's barely in 5, but she's still there. And then 6, she is not in it. And I literally left saying, and I will still say, but I left saying that's not Scream. It's not Scream because she's not even fucking in it. I was like, that's not Scream. I don't know.
That's the only reason that movie sucked.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying I left saying this isn't Scream. And it hurt. It like hurt as someone who like, I was just like, she is Scream. Sydney's story, regardless of how stupid it is, it's her cousin, it's her fucking stepbrother she never knew about. I don't give a fuck. It's still her.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm biased, or we all are because we love this movie so much, but she also feels like she has like a charm and an attachment that most other final girls don't have. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody we maybe care about Lori or, but I don't really care if she dies. Whereas like Sydney is like, we are attached to Sydney. I really want her to survive. Like, I really don't want her to die. Like,
no, and she deserves it at this point. That's the thing is like, and they tried giving her happy ending in 6 by writing her off. And it's like, that was fine in a way. I was like, okay, I guess, because if we're going to get rid of her, at least, whatever. Right. She's happily ever after. And forever.
We don't want to get rid of her and we don't want her to die. So
no, she better not die.
The one rebuttal I would have to that is, the Evil Dead argument, because I feel very much the same way about Ash, about Bruce Campbell and the Evil Dead movies. And that's what I said they had effed up when they did Evil Dead 2013. So I would say if somebody did a Scream and swung for the fences like Fetty did, of just using the loose structure of Scream and having a full new cast because honestly, that then becomes provocative to me again, because I know if Neve's in it, she's not going to die, to your point. Give me a fresh new set of really skilled actors and a really cool story like Fetty did with Evil Dead, and I might be in. But I agree with you completely. As far as traditional classic Coke Scream,
oh, yeah, exactly.
She's got to be in it. But if you made something completely different that was really smart with really good actors and use Scream as a franchise cap for it, you better bring it. I guess is what I'm saying.
Agreed. And that's what I thought when they did 5. And I think 5 is the one they just called Scream. Like when they did 5, I thought that's what they were doing.
I did
and
too.
I was like, I'll accept that we want to reboot Scream, I guess, and we'll see how it is. And I will go with my friends. We will take her daughter, who is at the time 8 or whatever, 7, and we will start a whole new generation of this. But the moment Sydney shows up in 5, you're like, oh fuck, no, it's still Scream. It's still my Scream.
Right.
So that's where they fucked that up. And so I agree with you, Dave. Like, and maybe we need distance, like more distance from it. And same thing with Evil Dead. We had distance.
Yeah, we had 20 years. Yeah.
So almost, maybe we need Scream to sit for a bit, and then you take Sydney out of it. But I guess I still don't want her to die. I want this Scream to end.
Yeah, she still survives.
You give me Scream 2.0.
Yeah.
And I always thought it would have been clever if 5 they just named like Screams with an S, like just like, because it's
you and your numbers. No, ma'am. I refuse.
No, not a 5. No, not a 5. Screams. Like added a letter and started a new generation of Screams.
Okay. What if they just start making it like just different, and then it's Screamings, and then it's Screamers, and then it's like Screaming.
To be fair, I thought they should have called it Stab, because I thought that would have been fucking hilarious.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. And because this whole universe is meta, and we haven't gotten there yet. But everything about this movie, starting with this one, is very very meta and very self-relevant, and whatever the word I'm trying.
That would be genius if they did a complete reboot like Evil Dead 2013,
and it
call it
Stab.
Yeah, that would be, and have what's her name play a character. Tori Spelling play a character in it.
Yep.
Although she's
So
yes.
Go ahead. Oh, I have a controversial opinion. I feel that Kevin Williams almost did this if it would have been on a different network. But the first season of the Scream TV show tried doing something like it. And MTV, like it's sad because like the bones of what he did, it also had a really good reveal, like who done it through the TV series, and they could do it in a longer form because it was a TV series. But like MTV really, then like they MTV-ified everything through it. But like Kevin Williams almost did that with the TV show, where it was kind of loosely based in the Scream universe, and like they were like using a somewhat similar costume, and like the mystery was still kind of cool, but then they just like shit MTV all through it. And like there are definitely some really bad parts of the series, but like I think if he would have found a better network, like I think that would have been the next, like just different seasons of Scream.
Ash versus Evil Dead for Scream.
Basically. And I think that would have been like different and like kind of something refreshing for it. And then we might not have had all that other poop. But MTV fucked up like it normally do.
I had hopes for Scream 5. It was a bummer because I agree. I felt the same way, Jamie. I thought like, oh, they're gonna do a reboot. It might be like it might actually be really good, like a fresh
something
spin
smart
on Scream, and then they did not do a fresh spin on Scream.
Yeah, and I think, and I said it in my opening part. I think this is the best movie Wes Craven has made, and I say that knowing that Wes Craven would hate that because this is the one movie that he was successful with that he didn't write. This is not an original story for him. Now, I will say it is interesting that he had just done, or a couple of years before, he had just done A New Nightmare, and A New Nightmare has the same vibe as Scream. If you go back and watch that movie, it is very self-referential and meta. I mean, he was saying a lot of the same stuff about culture in that movie that is said much better, in my opinion, in Scream. And I think that's why he gravitated towards Kevin Williamson's script. But this is his best execution. What he brought to the table is that encyclopedic knowledge of horror, like just as a genre, and putting all of this stuff in and putting all these layers on it. But, he loves big social commentary statements. Kevin Williamson loves big social commentary statements. Wes Craven is the John Hughes of horror, kind of. He is really good with teen angst and teen stories. Like that's what he really gravitates towards. So my question to y'all is, what do you think his big teen commentary is in Scream? Because I really, that's what I dove into in this last watching, just trying to consider what is this filmmaker and the script writer trying to tell me about this generation, which was my generation.
Good job, Dave. No, honestly, I think it's New Nightmare. I'll stand by it. He's the only director that his magna opus could have been, he ended his career with Scream and New Nightmare, and I would have been fine with that. But then he had to make that My Soul to Take, and that's what killed him. I truly believe that's
he got greedy.
He wanted to make one more movie. What other directors, like Carpenter's never going to be able to say that. He's too busy yelling at people getting off his lawn. No, but I think one of the big commentaries he put in this is that things don't change. The same problems and the same things that these kids want to do, and like the kind of things they were commentating on this one were the same things they were doing in the 80s, and it was the same. People, like older people that watched it, were making the same complaints about these characters that generation now whose kids was watching it was making the same complaints about these characters. Like it doesn't change. It's the same cycle over and over again. It's just
that's what's so in my opinion like genius about the statement is like Jamie said earlier about it being meta. It's literally meta, like on us, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're part of it. We are part of this. Like,
we're the butt of the joke. Yeah.
We're the butt of the joke, right? We're the butt of the joke. We're watching these characters, but we're also literally these characters that are saying like all of these same things. Mm-hmm. I think I was going to say the exact same thing as Eli, is that this idea that like we think we're a new generation, whatever generation is, right? And we're not going to make our parents' mistakes, those dumb idiots, and then we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when I was watching it this time and thinking about my own kids, because I'm of that age. I've one is just becoming 20s. I've got a teenager he's 15 now. So they're going through this like identity crisis that all teens go through. I mean, we joked at the top that was the one window in your life that you couldn't even get along with your own sister because you were trying to find yourself. It was all about self-identifying, like whatever that means. And you didn't want any outside forces. And then you've got somebody like Wes who picks up on this. If he's so attuned to that generation or that season of life, really, it's not even a generation. You're right, Tammy. It's not about a generation. It's about a season of life that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, everybody's.
And it's interesting if you look back at his original classic movies, the movies that gave him a name, like Last House on the Left and Hills Have Eyes. Those were about this season of life, but there was always this parental force that was also involved in it, and that's what the 80s was. The nuclear family was still very traditional in that way. So, but then you got movies like this that is about the literal latchkey generation, Generation X, where you have these kids who there are no parents and they don't trust any of the adults in their life. Like literally the only two adults in this movie are the sheriff and the principal. And one of them is completely a dullard and incapable of doing their job. And then you have a principal who's literally threatening to gut people, these kids, because they won't act right. Like, because you're a lost generation, you have no value, I should just gut you here. I mean, he's overtly aggressive towards them. And then you have these teens just fending for themselves, like while going through all of the crap of a John Hughes movie, also having the added bonus of there is no parental structure around them. And there's a killer out trying to violently kill them. And the way that they process this world is through things like Randy, where he processes the world through media. Everything in this is referential of media. All of them are talking about the music and the movies, and because and I can think back on this, and Eli, you just mentioned it several times, even on this episode, and we talked about it in the past. I mean, that's the way we coped, was through the media we consumed. Jamie just talked about this movie being that very thing for her in her house. Like, we related to the stories that Hollywood and musicians were giving us. The media is how we identified with. It's how we built a self-image of ourselves, because we didn't have close relationships with our family for the most part. I mean, I know that's a broad stroke, but we were a generation where both parents were probably working. They were kind of focused on their own lives. They had a lot going on. And we were literally, we get out of class, we got on the bus, we got home, and it would be 3 hours by yourself in the middle of the day with nothing to do. So we just consumed a shit ton of media in that time. And that had an effect on us. And I think that's the thing that I think Wes did a really good job of recognizing and triggering of, even in the big reveal. All of that is we are reacting to the world not being fair by doing what Hollywood told us to do. I mean, that's what that's what Skeet's big monologue is about. So that's my thought on it, as far as the messaging is him, one, recognizing that everybody goes through the season of life, and two, it's only getting worse because we are totally disengaged from all the other generations. Like, we are totally disengaged from any of the advice that might be given to us because we've let this generation go feral. I mean, ours is the feral generation.
Yeah, that's why I like I said, I have no problem. And a lot of people like to poo-poo on Wes Craven, but like, whereas Carpenter was a more literary director, and like with his stories, Craven was always, no matter how fantastical the movie appeared, it was always grounded in reality, except for that last one. We don't talk about it. But the other ones, like every movie was grounded in, because even like Nightmare on Elm Street has, well, the first one has elements of that. And like then finding out like, well, you can't even trust your parents because like, you know, like all that was grounded in reality, and like him kind of making people face the monster in society or whatever it is at the time. It was really like, he was so good, except for that last one. We don't count it. He was old. He's having health problems. I don't know what happened. He was forced to do it by the CIA. I don't know. I'm not sure. In my mind, his magnus opus, he ended it all on two beautiful movies.
But I think the thing we can agree on across the board in Wes Craven's entire filmography, and something that I relate to very closely, is Wes Craven had a very low image of humanity in general.
Yeah.
That humanity is a hateful, violent, evil thing.
Well, I think to Eli's point, and just in general, like Wes Craven really, in a time too, right? Because like his movies really span the 80s to the early 90s for the most part, like the big ones, you know, in a time when monster movies were a big deal. He made movies about, you know, man is the real monster, like the whole kind of cliche. He really did. Like, while everybody else was making like the big monster movies, he was just like, okay, but humanity is actually like the monster here.
Nobody's scarier than the weirdo next door kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Which is, I think, also a testament to why Scream is as successful as it is, as like the start of the new 90s movies, is because it took, you know, the 80s sort of monster craze, the unstoppable Jason, and things like that. And it was like, no, actually, like, humans are killable. They just suck. Like, you know,
and they do hateful, evil things.
They do hateful, evil things. Yeah, like they're just the worst. Like even a teenage boy worse. Basically, the premise of Scream. And yes,
he did an interview one time, like with like how Last House on the Left. He's like, everybody's talking about how good things were becoming and peace and love. He's like, meanwhile, like there was the most serial killers of any time since I've been alive, and like we were just ignoring that. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're right. You're right again. You're right again.
Thanks for the reminder, buddy.
And then like, now we did a complete 180 where like we recognize it and like they're almost which this movie does it with Scream does it with like movie killers, but like that's how people are now with like real serial killers. Like they talk about some of these guys like, oh man, and Dahmer was eating people. It's like what the fuck are we doing? Like, where are you, Craven? I need you again. Except for don't do that last movie yet. Don't do that.
Well, and I think it to sum up sort of what I think is so genius about this movie, it's the whole Casey opening. That whole structure of that, and that's really like a novella jammed into the front of the actual movie. But the whole thing is about her being completely isolated. She's not thinking that there's anything wrong with that. She's obviously completely capable and independent. She's very clever. She's smart on the phone. She's not giving information that she shouldn't be giving. You can tell that she's street smart in the way that's happening, but it doesn't matter because this person has her in a maze already and she just doesn't know it yet. And then that all culminates with her parents literally being feet from her while she's being butchered. And that, in this whole movie, there's nothing more heartbreaking than her running around the corner and being like 20 feet from her parents' car and being caught and dragged back. And then
I don't think anything's terrified me more than the idea that I could be like feet from safety there and still murdered.
Yeah.
Just like feet from safety.
It was so real.
Like that sticks with me to this day as like a terrifying notion.
Yeah.
The opening of this movie is the best opening of a movie. I feel like
I would like to read like Jamie's thesis on the opening scene of the movie, like a 80-page, like
Drew Barrymore coming out of hiding and acting again, and then she did all those amazing rom-coms after this. But
yeah, I've heard that this movie did for caller ID what Jaws did for the ocean.
I mean, I would not doubt it. Because she does it. Although that
I need to know who's calling me.
Then you hid your number, so
exactly.
You couldn't like.
Which seemed like dumb because the phone was like, "Well, we got a way around it," and it's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Seems like a good idea.
Thanks for wasting my time.
The opening of this movie, pure genius, and I mean the whole movie's genius. But also, like as I watched it a million times as I was watching today too, I was like the whole kitchen scene is perfection in a movie, like down to every corny line. I don't care. My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. Matthew Lillard is like a national treasure, and I know we've like talked about this before because we did like 13 Ghosts and whatever. But like, I love that man, and for all intents and purposes, like seeing him at conventions, I never actually got to meet him because last time he was at one, his line, I think Tammy, we might have been there too, but his line was around the fucking building. Like last time I saw him at one, he's like impossible to get to because he is so loved. And like, this was the first time I think any of us had seen him in anything. He's I mean, he's a child here kind of like, and it was the first time I'd seen him. I fell in love with him. I know everybody falls in Skeet with Ulrich. Matthew Lillard was like, cause I've always been for the comedy. Like I always go for the funny guys. Like, it's just like, but he's like perfect in this role. And that whole kitchen scene, just the way everything plays out, every line, every reveal, like I'm the one on this podcast that constantly complains about info dumps. And I wouldn't call that info dump, but as they even lay out their plan or explain what happened to her mom,
you want to know it all.
So perfect. And you're just like, you're with Sydney and you're like, holy fuck. And then you're with like Stu and he doesn't even know some of the shit. And you're like, holy fuck. And it's just like, and I know you said it earlier, but like a reveal like this and just the way it like has not been done so well or crafted so well in any other Scream movie, obviously, like no matter how hard they tried, then it just became like, and I love 1 through 4, but I'm just saying like, then it just became like M. Night Shyamalan. It's like, how can I was literally going to say that. I was going to say it was like an M. Night Shyamalan thing. Like,
Like you do one great twist and you'll just never do it again.
And as you watch him, you don't even care to figure it out anymore because it's going to be so fucking dumb because Sydney's going to have a mystery brother that she never had. Who cares? Yeah. So it's like fine. But the first one, like,
because you want to love Stu and Billy.
Oh yeah,
because they're you. Yes. They reflect this generation of horror fans. Like they reflect the horror community.
Yeah, and Billy was like that he is the boy. Like everybody, you're supposed to love him. He's just like that guy there. He looked a little like Johnny Depp at the time, and everybody was just like, he's the heartthrob. He's so attractive. He's so, and then it's just like, well, I wondered, speaking of attractive. Wait, I have to say, so.
Oh yeah,
I was a Stu fan. I was even Jamie Kennedy fan, Randy fan. Like, because again, humor,
I can see that.
Back in the, humor is like
he's a smart guy.
And it's like funny. I like the funny guy. Like Billy was just way too serious, but he was the heartthrob. So my friend who I mentioned, Nicole, she loved him. I believe my mom found him adorable. Like it's just like he's an attractive human being. I was like, he's not my cup of tea. Now, a couple of years ago, Tammy and I met him at a horror convention. And the way he looks into your soul, not only has he gotten to be one of those actors that have gotten more attractive as
he's a Timothy
aged well.
He's a Timothy Olyphant. Like he somehow just gets hotter as time went on. Like, but he was a boy then. He is a man now.
But we met him, and he is like, right? He shakes your hand. He just looks into your soul. This has been an ongoing joke with us.
Like his just the way that his eyes just reached into my soul. Like I went from like being indifferent to Skeet Ulrich to being like, will you marry me?
I was just like, I never liked this guy, but I love Scream. Fine. He had like no line. Like we were just like, it was us, our cousin. Like we were just like, let's all meet him. Like we took like a group photo with him. And Tammy and I were just like the biggest Skeet Ulrich fans.
I was like swooning. Like I never cared for him before, right? And I was like swooning over.
Are we picking out China? Are we doing this? Yeah. Is that what's happening?
Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So he's
well, good for him. And you had mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to circle back to it that I agree completely. Sydney Prescott has never gotten her like big final girl praise, but I think a lot of that has to do with Neve Campbell and less to do about the character, because I don't think Neve she never embraced the horror community. It was kind of below her.
She doesn't show up to these things.
Exactly. No. And I think that's why Lillard is the one who kind of represents Scream at all these things, because he's all for it.
Yes. So. Right. And he's like a sweetheart when you watch him in these videos with like children who loved him. Like he just like, oh my God, he's amazing. I would love to meet him one day. But like you guys all know, having gone to conventions too, I'm also like opposed to waiting on long lines to meet someone. And that's not me being like, I'm at a convention. I want to have fun. I want to shop. I want to do things. I'm not going to spend the whole time in line to meet someone. It's great if I could. We all saw me meet Jane Levy and how amazing that was. And I got her autograph because it was, but
didn't even have to wait.
Yeah, that's the way I'll do it. Yeah, that's the way I'll do it. If it's someone I love, I'm all for it. And they're not, and whatever, but I'm not like, I mean, Matthew Lillard's line was around the goddamn building, and it was great for him. I'm so
every day too. Remember, it was like every day it was around the block.
I was like, who's this line for? Oh, Matthew Lillard. You never would have guessed. You think it's like, or more recently, remember, it was like Sam Raimi or whatever. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Like,
I was shocked because I know people love him, but I was like, I didn't realize that they were like, loved him. Like, I was surprised. The longest line was
like Matthew Lillard.
And that says a lot about the kind of human being.
Yep. Yeah. I was so happy. I was just like, he deserves that. He's like,
because we've all heard the people that we love in characters who aren't great human beings. They don't have lines. They don't have lines around the block. But I do love that. But I it's a shame for us as a community that Neve didn't embrace this character. Because if she had done the convention scene, I think Sydney would still be what everybody was dressing up as. But
you are very right in that. You are very right that the reason you're right to put my point like in its place is that she doesn't embrace it enough to be the final girl.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, if she was at these things, you're right. I think she would be number one. She would be. Because why not? Why not? Exactly. Why fucking not? She's in all of that. Like, I mean, she is the woman as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. So one of the other things I wanted to kind of talk about is as a fan of this movie, I am, and this is where I may annoy some of you. I'm not a fan of any of the sequels. Like I have a hard time with all of them because this movie had such an impact on me, and it was at such a level of intelligence and storytelling and film craft for me that every time I went and saw another one, they just got worse and worse, which is what happens. And I get that. You know, having high expectations is a great way to hate a movie. I didn't have high expectations when I saw the first one, and it blew my mind. That was never going to happen again. But you would at least hope that a franchise at least honors the memory of kind of where it came from. I think 4 did a pretty good job. Actually, 4 I like better than 2 and 3.
Same sometimes. Well, Dave and I will talk. Well, we're getting into the rankings of these movies. So Dave, continue your point, and I will tell you what I think about 4 also. But go.
Okay. But my question is, because I think even more than what John Carpenter originally wanted to do with Halloween, I think Scream as a concept would have been fantastic as an unrelated anthology franchise. Like whole new cast of characters, almost like an American Horror Story kind of deal, with that kind of voice and intelligence in the writing, but a new cast of people, a new situation, a new killer, a new mystery to solve. I think that would have been a much cooler way to keep the energy of the movie and keep it fresh than trying to, because let's be honest, you're absolutely right, Jamie. Every movie is a reskin of the original, right down to the final people that are going to be on screen. It's a reskin. So that really impacts a movie's capability to make me enjoy it as a horror movie. So that's just my thought. I love your feedback on that one.
So, I mean, listen, is a movie rated 100, and then even the next best one is at 50. Let's be honest. I mean, but again, I think there's this nostalgia thing for me. I was so into 1. I was at an impressionable age, as you had mentioned many times. We were trying to find ourselves. I was literally 14 or whatever, 13, like when this came out, 14, and like the next one came out fairly quickly. I don't know the years. Is it 2 years later, like a year later? I mean,
still in the 90s. Yeah.
I was still on board. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I was still, Scream was my favorite movie I had ever seen.
97, 1 year after.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So 1 year. So now we're talking about
97.
my favorite movie. It's still my favorite movie.
They were throwing money at this.
So I'm throwing myself at this, and I'm like, okay, too. So the nostalgia thing, like I said, I've seen every single one with my same friend, and then different iterations of people, whatever. Like, so does it hold up to 1? Not in the least, but it's still, I think that I'm kind of as a whole. So that's why, like, even though the best 1, 2, and 3 as like a package when all is said and done in a way. So it's like my nostalgia for Sydney, all these things we're saying, like it's still there for even at this point, we're talking Gail and Dewey and like, you know, just how many times can Dewey get stabbed and live? Now it becomes a joke. Like by 3, it's like, you know, it's hilarious.
It's a gimmick.
It's again, because this movie is still fucking meta. That's like, you know, and it's just like still self-referential. And it's just, they still play his dumb music every time he gets, like, it's fucking hilarious. So I take them as a whole. If I'm ranking my favorite movies of all time or whatever, 1 is the only one that falls in there. The others don't. But as a package, I see them like all as Scream. Now, years ago, I would have put them at 1, 2, 4, and 3. And because 3 is so fucking stupid. But as I've gotten older,
it's the banks.
It's everything about that movie. But as I've gotten older, what I just said holds true. It's a package deal, 1, 2, and 3. The thing with 4 was, at the time, because there was no fucking abomination that's 5 and 6, but at the time, we had years in between 1, 2, and 3. And then 4 came out of nowhere. And 4, back to that marketing thing, pretended like they were barely in it. They were in the trailer, but it was like, we're going to somehow kind of what they've done with the new ones. Like, we're going to somehow pass this off from Sydney and Gail and Dewey to like a new generation. And then I got in the theaters with my same friend and whatever, and was ready for this new Scream that I wasn't so excited about. And it was fucking Sydney's story again. And I was transported back to 14 and so fucking stoked. And that's why 4 at the time and for a few years, I put it higher than 3. And I think it's because it hit. And I've talked to people that had the same experience with it. They loved the movies. They loved 1, 2, and 3. We had gone maybe 10, 15. I don't even know how many years before like this cast was going to be back on my screen. And then they were back, and it was actually about Sydney and Gail and Dewey. And like all these new kids were just ancillary. They were just there for body count and to like move the story along. besides the killer reveals. But like they were just there to do that. And I had such a good time with 4. And it references the originals a lot. And then it's got don't fuck with the original line and everything. It's just so corny. And I ate it all up.
11 years, Jamie.
In between, right?
Scream 3 was 2000 and Scream 4 was 2011.
So that's the thing. Like, and maybe
yeah, they had 11 years. That is,
and maybe
that's
from 4 to 5
yeah.
also, but 5 just sucked. So
yeah, but 5 was bad. So
yes,
yeah,
so
at least 4. I mean, 4 wasn't good, but at least it had like your characters.
Yeah, so that's why for a while,
it made the effort. Yeah, so
I had 4. I had 4 high. As I've gotten older, like I said, I see 1, 2, and 3 as a thing. So now I would rank them literally in number order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 5 and 6 are like it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I'm curious to know, like you said, like you wouldn't even rank any of them but 1 on your favorites list. Like how far on your favorites list would we have to go to get to like 2 and 3? Yeah, like 500, like 250. Like how far on your favorites list?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how many movies can be in your top?
Like maybe like 250 to 2 and 3, but like 500 to 5 and 6.
Oh yeah, 5 and 6. I will find 500 movies that could fall between 6. That's how much I hated those movies.
But the first one's, I mean, you had mentioned it earlier with Terrifier and with Evil Dead, but the first one is still probably top 5 for Jamie, right?
Scream?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Horror movie?
Yeah.
Of all time, maybe like even top 10. Horror movies, I would say it's got to be in my top 5. Because I mean, I'd have to think on it, but yeah, Scream has to be in like my top 5 horror movies. It just is.
Yeah, honestly, it's almost like the horror version of Charlie Brown's Christmas. Like when it gets cold and I want to watch the leaves change, I watch Scream. Like it's a yearly thing. It's like an opening thing.
What's funny is as I think about it, and I think every single person on this podcast can relate because I know you guys. When this came out, everybody here, I'm speaking for us, I'm sorry, but like we're misfits. Mm-hmm. And horror was not what it was now. Like I just said, I took a child to see Scream 5 and 6. Like, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but kids in elementary school are wearing Ghostface shirts and horror icons. And it's adorable and it's cute. Half of these movies they haven't seen, but they like the images. They go to Spirit Halloween. It's
cultural.
Yeah, I'm not picking on this right now. I'm just like saying like they don't, like my little cousin, Tammy and I's little cousins are young and they love Sam. They've never seen Trick or Treat. But they love him. They think he's cute. They think whatever. They think he's cool. They think he's cute.
But yeah.
He is. They want to watch it, but they're too young. My cousins are like, not yet. So my point being is like, we were in like high school or different ages and all of us and like a bit of a misfit and horror movies were not, this was our fucking movie. And I was obsessed with this movie, and I'm not saying this but it wasn't cool to be obsessed with this movie, really. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it, like, and this was my favorite movie. And like, but at the time it's like, it wasn't like, horror movies were like what they are right now. I went on my rant recently how I can't get a fucking Terrifier toy because all of a sudden it's like the fucking most popular thing on the planet. So like
there wasn't a social media for you to find a community.
That too. That's social media. And so
to Dave's point earlier is that like we gravitated towards this type of media because of our sort of like otherness, right? Like horror movies were not. I just had a conversation with someone about this too recently, is that like I love to see horror movies in the mainstream because we all love to see our like favorite genre succeed, but it's like completely changed the sort of otherness of horror movies, right? Like the way we watch horror movies now is so different. Like Scream even being in theaters and being like a huge hit in theaters, like right? Like being a box office hit was like a big deal in 1996.
Yeah,
like a very big deal.
It brought horror into
absolutely.
Quite honestly, it could have brought it into popularity for all. But again, I don't like at that time. Like Dave just said too, there was no internet. It was much harder to find the other people that were. Yes, I saw it with like Nicole. Every single one. Nicole's not a huge horror fan. She just really likes Scream and really, you know what I mean. So it's like even in high school, Tammy and I, like my core group of friends weren't big horror fans. Like we'd watch things at sleepovers and whatever, but like not the way I am now sitting in my whatever ages, I won't say, on a podcast about horror. None of my other friends.
That people listen
like,
to,
you know what I'm trying to say?
Like, a friend that I very specifically went to see Scream with was not a horror fan.
Yeah,
like she just liked movies, right? And she was willing to see this movie because it was like
high school.
The new hit high school movie, right? Like we were in junior high and that's what we did.
We say junior high, right? Were we even in?
We were in junior high, 6th grade, something like that. You were probably in 8th grade. I was probably in 6th grade, somewhere around there.
No, if I saw it with Nicole, I had
you
to
were
be
in high school.
Freshman in high school.
So maybe I was in 7th grade and you were in high school. Yeah.
Well, and you know, to the point you're making, Jamie, about this movie and the way even Hollywood referred to or looked at horror it was this goofy third tier thing. Like nobody was proud to be in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was this
trash.
really awkward, weird thing. We talked about this on the Tremors episode that Kevin hated being that movie because it was a horror movie. Like it was, and it wasn't even a horror movie. It was a creature feature, which is like an even lower class version of horror.
Yeah.
But when I was looking this up, because I had the memory of why was it that I saw this movie when I did, and why didn't I see it when I thought I had? But do you know when Scream came out? Did anybody look this up?
You mean what month? Like,
Yeah,
you mean like?
Yeah, when did it come out in '96?
Is it a summer movie? Are you going to tell me?
Who wants to guess? Or honestly, now you know it's not October. But you would you have assumed this would have been the big October movie of 1996?
I would have, but
February.
But horror wasn't a big thing, so that's why
I want to guess it came out in February of '96.
No,
Valentine's Day.
I'm going with July.
Came out for Valentine's Day.
Eli, what do you think?
I think, wasn't it a winter release?
It was a December 20th release. This came out right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Wow. What
it was
a
a
bold
throwaway
choice.
release.
But
What
then
a
again, though,
choice.
honestly,
Yeah.
there like unless it was one of the big ones, most horror didn't come out in October.
No.
Which is like it typically horror movies came out in months where there wasn't really much else coming out.
Yeah.
Like that's how they traditionally they've done it, which is
why I saw it twice in a week, because there was nothing else going on and I could go do that. But it blew my mind that Scream, arguably one of the best movies of its kind, was a throwaway release that they just wanted to get out before the end of the year.
My God. Now you have horror movies fighting for October. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I mean, or around, or coming out, or coming out like streaming in time for October. So like maybe they'll come around the summer so that they can.
No, I mean now September is
Well, September is
becoming the new right. Well, I just mean that like they're even fighting for September now. Like there's no like pre-lead in.
Stack the schedule,
But that's like just a recent thing, because I remember even when, in 2009. Or is it 2008 or 7 maybe, whatever, when Rob Zombie's Halloween came out, and like a lot of people were excited that Halloween was getting a reboot, and that came out in August. That wasn't even and like there was nothing in October that year, and like they put it in August, and literally the title of the movie is fucking Halloween, and like they didn't put it in October. It's like that's just been a thing they've done like the last couple years, which is crazy.
Horror has blown up. Like I said, there's children like getting into it. I'm not opposed to that as a horror fan. I don't have children, so I don't have to worry about my kids having nightmares or watching shit they shouldn't be watching. But like, it's crazy how recent it actually has become, or how stacked October has now become, and how stacked, right? Like you said, Leading, and Beetlejuice came out in September. Like, you know, it's just, it's now September into October, or like I even said, sometimes the summer so that they could stream it in October or whatever they want to plan for it. And
yeah, it really has become sort of the golden age of horror. I mean, I feel like that's what we've been living in the last 5 or 6 years. Everybody says it was the 80s, but if you were young in the 80s, and I know I'm the only one on this podcast that was, understand that until it came to VHS, which was 85 and later, you didn't know movies like Basket Case existed unless you lived in New York and you could go to that one theater that plays those weirdo horror movies.
To be fair, most people that are not listening to this podcast still don't know Basket Case exists. Like, I feel like the fan base of this podcast does, but to be fair, most of the world still doesn't know.
No, but that's a valid point. You didn't even see these movies. So if they were a blockbuster, if they were like, if that was
I mean, Scream might be the first horror movie I saw in theaters, right? Like I'd be willing to bet that Scream was probably one of the first horror movies I saw in theaters, because everything until then we had seen on VHS, right?
Yeah.
I can't say for certain.
You're right, 80 movie, and because this was a resurgence.
I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that every horror movie I'd seen till then was a VHS rental, or something like that.
I mean, talking about street cred, though, to say that your first horror experience on the big screen was Scream, that's pretty good. Pretty solid start.
Pretty solid.
It's all downhill from there.
Yeah, we'd have to look at when some others came out, but she's right. Yeah, a lot of them are VHS. A lot of them are just rentals, and like watching them. Like,
some of us had to go to the local country store and lie that the movies for their grandma. So, because by the time Scream came out, I was 8, so I did not see that in theaters.
We just bought a ticket for literally anything else and then walked into the R-rated movie. That's what we did.
Well, the closest movie theater was like an hour and 20 minutes away from me, so that was not an option.
All right, Grandpa.
No. Hey, I'd walk uphill both ways, Dave.
With no shoes on.
I mean,
No shoes on and 4 feet of snow when I went to the theater.
It's horror adjacent because we did it, but I told you, I saw Congo in theaters, and that's definitely isn't that, what is that, 94? What, we just went through this. We just discussed it.
I don't know if I'd call that horror.
But it's horror adjacent. Yeah, it's horror adjacent. They're supposed to, not till you watch it again in 2024 and you realize that it's complete garbage and there's no monkeys in it.
It's not adjacent to anything.
Oh my God.
Any other thoughts on the screen?
It's the best movie to ever exist, hands down.
And we haven't gone in scene by scene because this is a 28-year-old movie. What you really need to know is our experience of it. If you haven't seen it, you should, period. I mean,
oh my God.
And something I was going to say earlier that I forgot to mention was that when I rewatched it recently with someone who hadn't seen it before, I was very afraid of spoilers. And I think we're lucky that Scream came out when it did, because it came out before like memes and things were really a thing. And I think it's actually like missed a lot of the spoilers. So I think that they're, having just done it, there are people that do not know the twist. I mean, now they do, if they're listening to this podcast. Yeah. But at the time, like there are people out there.
Yeah, if you're not in the community, you're fair.
They're not in the community. They have not. They don't know the twist that hasn't been spoiled for them, and I think that's a beautiful thing too. I think it's beautiful that you can still see a movie from 1996 with a fantastic twist and still get twisted. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jamie. And I hadn't thought about it, but I think the reason it works so well, even 28 years later, is the way it's handled within the story is still pitch perfect. Like you do not see it coming. Everything's a red herring. Yep. I mean, this is a formula that has been done 100 times at this point in horror as a genre, but no one has done it as well as the original has. Yeah. So if you come in as a noob or a normie, as they call people who aren't into horror, you don't see these beats coming. Like you do not see this twist coming.
Well, and it's written, and I'm not going to call it a cop out, but it's written. Even if you watch it knowing, there's no way to catch it, because I've watched everything they say to each other, everything they do, and it's literally purposely written, even with scenes that like purposely mislead you in a cheap way. And I'm not calling it cheap, but in a cheap, because they really don't want you to know, and it works because of how it plays out, and that there's two of them. So anytime you question something, it was the other one. You know what I'm trying to say? Like. And it so it's just like, but watching them interact, like even just before I was like really noting them in like the fountain scene when they're sitting there trying to talk about who did it. And like Stu's like, I didn't kill anyone. And he's like, nobody said you did. And like, thanks, bud. And like just watching them interact. And I'm sitting there like watching the way they look at each other. And I'm just like, it's because what they did too is that like the red herring is the murderer.
Yeah.
But
for half
right?
The movie.
Like that's the genius of the movie. The genius of the movie is the red herring is absolutely the murderer, but there's more to it than that. Like, and that's the genius of the movie, I think, is that they throw you off by putting you right on track, basically.
Exactly.
But then they just like completely flip the script. And it's like no movie has really done that quite as well, in my opinion.
No. Tell you that you're right, and then
tell you that you're right, but also
you're wrong.
But I also notice, like, don't try thinking about it too much, because then the I don't want to call them holes, but like it's like one wrong move by one of these idiots, and it would have all got blown up. Because think about it, just like, I'm like, okay, well, if Stu's the one that was in her house, and like Billy's the one who shows up though, and it's like you just start thinking about like one wrong something, and you're just like, this never would have fucking.
I've tried very hard not to think too much about who's who in which scene, right?
Ever.
Yeah,
no,
because then you'll blow a hole in the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the position this movie takes, is it's self-aware enough to know that it's unapologetic to say this is improbable, but it's our story, and it's a really damn good story.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's self-aware that in real life this would be hard to pull off, but we've written in a way that we can prove it could happen for sure.
And honestly, to your guys' point about the fact that there's not spoilers and like fresh people watch this, I'm finding that we're getting that next age group that are like hitting their like kind of early to mid 20s. That like there's so much. It's not like when like I was in high school and like horror was limited. So like I was looking for these 70s, 80s horror films because like a lot didn't come out. Well, now there's so much content where like they're not seeing a lot of this stuff or don't know very much about it, because if there's sequels, like now the new Scream movies aren't known for being good. So like most people, they're not getting a lot of new audience. So like, because like there's like a guy I work with sometimes, he's like in his mid-20s, had no clue what The Exorcist was. Yeah. And I was like,
boy.
I was like, you should watch The Exorcist.
Oh boy.
You mean that Believer movie?
I was like, no, don't ever watch that. I was like, you should watch this. He's like, oh, is it scary? And I went, probably not. I think you'll be fine. Yeah. And like the next day I saw him and he was like, you're a piece of shit. He was like, that was terrifying. He's like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Why is that on tape? And I was like,
well, and I got into a conversation with one of our viewers on YouTube. They had made a comment on, and I think it was our Hills Have Eyes episode that we reviewed, and they had made the comment sort of offhand. It wasn't an insult of, you guys really love these really old movies that nobody watches anymore.
Oh, was it the 2005 one or the
the original one?
Okay, so it was a really old movie then.
Yeah.
But that's a classic as far as we were concerned.
And that's the conversation I had with him. I was like, wow, like I totally get it. I mean, we're generationally separated, but to say The Hills Have Eyes is no longer relevant is a big statement in my brain.
That is mine too, because the generation of us, of horror fans, that was like, if you didn't see it, I'm not saying you're not a horror fan, but it's like, how are you a horror fan this long if you haven't seen XYZ movies? I mean, it goes for a lot of them. Tammy and I have had this conversation a million times. I probably had it on here. Cannibal Holocaust. I will never watch it, but literally it's
that's
like
a
on
principled
that list.
Stand. Yeah.
It's like
that's a principle. Yeah,
exactly. But it's on that list of like, how are you a horror fan and you've never seen fucking Cannibal Holocaust, which I have, but it's like, point being is like the Hills Have Eyes is a classic. They remade it for a reason. Like,
but to Eli's point, it was also like we were limited. So we saw the Hills Have Eyes because what else were we going to see? Yeah, we liked horror. So we just searched for every horror. We went through like every horror. I have like an extremely relevant story, which is that like when I used to get my hair done, I don't anymore, but my hairstylist was telling me a story about how he was doing somebody's hair and they were talking about horror movies. They both like horror movies. And he was like, oh my God, like what's your favorite horror movie? Right. Whatever.
What's your favorite scary movie, Tammy?
What's your favorite scary movie? And sorry, I should have made that right. Yeah. And the kid was like, oh, I like really old stuff. Like my favorite horror movie is Scream. And my hairstylist was like, we're done here.
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Right. So to speak to younger generation and really old stuff, some of them are watching it, but it's really old to them, basically. A 1996 movie is like...
And it's really like, old. And as this movie keeps going, and the newer generation loves Ghostface. He's on blankets, he's on things, and little kids have his mask. And I've seen many of my friends' kids like love him and whatever. But I didn't literally get in a fight, but I got in a fight with when I took a child to see Scream 5 and 6 or whatever. And she had seen the original. Like that's why she wanted to see the new ones, and we took her. But like when I asked her then subsequently, maybe like last year, which one was her favorite, and she told me 5, I said, get out. Get out.
We're done here.
Like, out.
And by the way, everything I've made for you, I want back.
Yeah. You're dead to me.
But I said, it's 1. The answer is always 1. Get out.
The answer is always 1, but unless it's Evil Dead, and then the other answers are actually allowed.
Well, and for Scream too, but like, but this is to the point now 10 or whatever, like this is a different generation watching horror movies. And like, although she does like there's a reason she got into the new ones speak to her, like her,
she doesn't get the cellular phone reference. How often they reference cellular technology.
I don't understand. Why didn't they just look at the display to see who was calling? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh God.
Where did you get a cellular telephone, boy? We all got them, Sheriff.
My God. Yeah. Oh yeah, where'd you get? Yeah,
listen, oh God. I will be 34 this year.
Okay.
And I've had the conversation with people that are like, "Man, it was dumb when you guys used to have keyboards on your cell phones." And I was like, first off, don't like how you're talking to me like I'm 90.
Slow down before you hurt yourself.
Secondly, I was like, they weren't touch screens. I said I had the flip. Those are the greatest phones.
The flip out one.
Yeah. You mean like this?
Yes.
Ooh, that's the one.
I was
Tammy is representing, ladies and gentlemen. If you're only listening to the podcast.
You mean like this little guy here?
Yeah.
No, wait, what was the one that I had to get though that made the sound that you flip? No, you all know what I'm talking about. It got really trendy and I got one.
The Crazer.
No, guys, there was a moment in time.
Yeah, it flipped around like it rolled out.
The slide. Was that
like
called
everybody
the slide
in
or
the
something?
Scene had one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in like the Scene had one, and I had one because it was like the first kind of smart. Yeah, Dave was exactly right. You make a sound every time you did it. The whole screen like bloop bloop went up. It was like its own device. That's why I
think
can't
that's
think
the
of
oldest one I have. I also have this one that
I have a bunch of old.
Oh, my
flips
Leia.
up.
But I was like, we didn't have touchscreens. I said, and that was a lot easier than hitting the same number 3 times.
to type a message.
to
which
type
I
a
could do
message.
under the table with my eyes shut, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we all could do it. But like, I was like, the keyboard is so nice because then you could just be like, "Blue, blue, blue, blue." And he was like, well, just, why didn't they just put a keyboard on the screen? I was like, shut up.
You know what would be a fun,
Shut
this is not horror related, but you all should do this on an episode in the future, is like a T9 test and see how quickly you all could still, like, is it still motor memory? Like, could you actually send a text message?
T9, I don't even
via
know.
T9, you know, like, is it still in there the way like playing an old video game is, you know?
I hope it's not because I hated it so much. I hope it's not.
T9 texting.
Jamie, because I wouldn't be able to sleep unless I found out it's the sidekick.
Thank you. I just got there, Dave. I just got there. I literally just got there. It was a sidekick. And I had to get one because they were so fucking like trendy. I had literally 2 phones.
It was the switchblade of the 90s.
I had a cell phone, but then that was starting to be, I had like just a data plan on the sidekick because this is when we were starting. Like I could load MySpace, but it was really slow. And I can get MySpace, but I had to sit there and like wait for Tam. You remember the sidekick? It made
yes, this looks really familiar. Yeah, I remember this. I did not have it. Because I was not that cool, but
you got your sister's hand-me-down phone.
Yeah,
she still gets some of my hand-me-down technology.
I still get her hand-me-downs.
Sounds like we said our piece about Scream.
Yeah.
So I have a fun surprise for everybody.
Oh, you brought Neve Campbell.
Well, no, she said that horror's below her, but I couldn't afford her rate, but. In lieu of having Neve on, I'm actually suspending Dave's Critter Corner for Camp Wicked Wild to add a new section called the Survivor Grade Card, where I've put together a grading system for each of our survivors each week. And each of you is going to give me your grade. And I've got 6 different attributes of a true final survivor person, a classic. Following the rules that Randy gave us, these are the attributes of what we think a survivor has to have. And you're going to each give me a 1 to 10 grade for each of these attributes. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Ready. Do it.
For Sydney, yeah?
For Sydney.
Yep.
Okay.
So the attributes are going to be endurance, evasion, luck, weapon skill, intuition, and influence.
Ooh.
So, Tammy, 1 to 10, what was Sydney's endurance grade?
10.
A 10. Right out of the gate.
Absolutely. 10 out of the gate. Yeah.
Jamie.
I mean, spoiler alert, I'm going to need 10s across the board, probably. I'll try. Endurance, 10. I agree, 10. Not once does she flounder in this movie, right?
Fair.
Yeah, she makes it to the end almost fully.
She's
just a little bit of blood, but she's like, yes.
She's never gassed.
Puts that costume on in 3 seconds flat.
she does get that on very fast. Yeah.
Eli.
Oh, for endurance, a 10. I gotta do 10 again.
All right. Evasion.
Win.
Tammy.
Evasion? 7.
7.
7. I think she definitely gets caught a handful of times.
Yeah.
I think she makes some dumb mistakes.
She gets boxed in. She doesn't get herself cornered.
Yeah. I think she's still something to be proud of, but she flounders a bit.
Yeah.
Jamie.
8.
8. Eli.
She's not dipping below a 7.
I want to say I have to agree with Tammy here, a 7.
7.
She's getting an A- at the lowest from Jamie.
What about luck, Tammy?
Honestly, luck, 5.
5. Yeah, she doesn't have great luck.
She does not have great luck. Yeah, and that's not her fault. But she does not.
Yeah, this is a weird one though, because luck. Yeah, because like where we're gonna go with, I see where we're going here. Like some of these final girls, maybe it's all luck. So like, it's gonna be a 10 because they didn't do shit, but it's like all luck.
Maybe that should be a reverse score. Maybe the higher the luck, the worse.
Yeah,
fair point.
True.
Yeah, because
Lori would be high on that, right?
Yeah, Lori's. Yeah. Let's please be honest. Luck in this. I mean, I don't even think luck really comes into that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think she ever I don't think it like.
She certainly doesn't get lucky.
No, she doesn't really get lucky, and they're always after her. So she's.
She's always the target.
That house had that many doors. She didn't build that house. Oh, for sure it is.
You're right. That's luck. All right. What? Oh God, I can't. Is luck playing in by a lot or by a little? I need to know. I'm just 50-50. Like she doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like it just works. Yeah. It's like a blank slate. I'm putting her right in the middle. There is no, yeah.
I was thinking of 2. I was thinking 5.
5.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to make an argument that luck played a factor at all for her.
Exactly.
survival.
That's where I think that's where it's like hard because like, and I think luck is kind of a bad thing for a final girl.
Like, right. Again, I think it makes her better because she's very unlucky that
she earned it, like you said earlier.
Yeah,
she literally starts the story with her mom was murdered last year. So like that's normally not the start of a lucky person storyline.
Yeah. I bet you're wondering how I got so unlucky.
Yeah. Start with my mom.
Tammy, what about weapon skill?
Weapon skill. She doesn't use a whole lot of weapons in the first one.
Mm.
She does have that wonderful moment where safety's off now, bitch.
Not in my story, yeah.
Not right. My story, yeah.
Yeah, not right. Right. So I'll give her a 7. I'll give her a 7 for weapons.
Jamie?
I'm giving her a 10 because she drops a TV on someone's head. And
an improvised weapon.
And
an umbrella.
Umbrella. She uses her own goddamn finger as a weapon in his hole. God,
yep.
Oh my God.
That's what she said.
Quote.
She fingered his hole? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, just take that quote and put it on the internet. But
it's like Godzilla episode all over again.
And she for all intents and purposes, we know the backstory. I'm going to say though, my Sydney girl has never picked up a gun, but she gets a fucking headshot right point blank right between it. So you know what?
We don't know her backstory, but yeah.
Sydney Prescott.
Yeah.
Eli.
Not even though she forgets the safety the first time, she still gets
exactly.
That's Gail.
That's
Gail.
Gail
oh, you're right. That's Gail. You're right. That's Gail.
You're right. Sydney's not my movie.
I'm not somebody who want to give a lot of 10s, but this is one of the few movies I've ever seen where someone literally takes someone down with an umbrella. So I'd have to give her a 10.
10 it is.
Like umbrella, a TV. It was like watching a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And like the character going, what's around me?
Whatever she had on hand, she was deadly with.
She's
All right.
I know another one of our girls that's going to get a 10 in that also. Just saying.
All right, Eli. Intuition.
Her intuition is not very good. I mean, it's. I gotta give her a 3.
I'm
giving her a 3. Her intuition is not very good. I love her. I love the first 3 movies, but
she sleeps with the killer. I mean,
but she also thinks it's him. She does.
Yeah, but then she still sleeps with him anyway. So
he's hot. He's Skeet Ulrich.
Well, I mean, okay.
First of all, thinking about that's a bold move that after you sleep with someone, you still question them about.
That's what I mean.
But to the point that was made earlier, Jamie and Tammy have looked into this man's eyes. Right. They may get it.
Maybe. Yeah, but then you look at the second one and literally her ex-boyfriend's mom is running around parading as a reporter.
Yeah, but she lost 150 pounds.
But her face didn't melt. And Sailor, she never once was
they don't cross paths. She only crossed paths with Gail.
Scenes where she's running in the background and Sydney doesn't even notice.
Also, her intuition Timothy Oliphant earlier. He looks bad in 2. He's gotten hot.
He had that dumb haircut. But and then she does it. I'm sorry, her intuition is not great. She's kind of if you ever watch she's like Conan the Barbarian, right? She's just here to walk in, just smash shit. Okay. Everything else will work.
She's here to chew gum and kill shit.
Yeah,
she's out of gum.
She's out of bubble gum.
All right, Jamie, intuition. Do you agree or disagree? 3's pretty low.
Oh, she's not getting that low. Intuition. Let me think of her as a whole. I'm giving her a 7.
A 7.
Yep.
All right, Tammy.
I give her a 6.
6 it is.
I think she's got a little like we said. She's suspicious.
Yeah.
She's wary.
She's aware of the rules.
Yeah, she's aware of the rules. She's trying to follow them, but then she's got these pools of eyes to look into that
these
just
devil
melt her
eyes.
soul. Hard to resist, you know?
All right, Jamie. Last scoring matrix. Influence, which I think is an important one for a survivor.
Wait, I need to know the definition for influence. On other people, you mean? Around? What do you mean influence?
Influence on the killer, on influence on those around them. their ability to use the people around them to suss out clues, to learn more, and literally to influence the killer's willingness to kill them in any situation.
10. She gets a 10. I mean,
10.
I feel like everything revolves around Sydney in every way, shape, and form in these movies. She's influencing everything around her. The killers themselves all come out of the woodwork because of her and her mother, I guess.
To come get her.
Actually, it's really all her mother, isn't it? When you think about it.
It
When you
is.
get to 3, it's her mother's fault. All of this.
Everything. Every bit.
Yeah.
Her fucking mother.
Yeah.
No Sharon Stone.
Nope.
Let's face it, Sydney.
Nope.
Your mother,
Yeah, Glenn Close would have been
You gotta do
proud.
the hand thing too.
and let's face it, Sydney. Your mother was no Sharon Stone. By the way, I can quote every single line.
Especially the stew lines, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm giving her a 10. Okay. Every single thing revolves around Sydney Prescott. She influences everything. She's a 10.
All right, Tammy. Influence?
This is a tough one because I think in the beginning she's a little bit of a, I don't know. She's got a significant lack of influence in the beginning,
Mhm.
but towards the end, I feel like she really builds her case. Oh, I can't pay attention now. Sorry, I got distracted. Speaking of influence, Ash gets a 10. I think 7. I think 7. She
7.
proves her influence at the end. She definitely manipulates them back, but she has to sort of like learn her confidence, I feel like. So.
All right, Eli.
Man. Yeah, the killers, but like literally her friend, like she asks her friends to do something, they don't do it right. They don't listen to her. They constantly bring up the fact about her getting over a dead mom, which just happened a year ago, which seems a little
I
soon.
know. Everybody treats it like it happened like 10 years ago.
Yeah, like Dewey's like her. Even the police are like, she's like, someone's trying to murder me. They're like, fuck it, we'll put Dewey on the case. Like, whatever, who gives a shit. So like, I'd probably, man, I'd have to give her like a 4.
Can you stop bringing down her rating, please?
Listen, I'm sorry, but like the only people she can influence is the killer. No one else gives a shit.
It's true.
In this first movie.
Yeah,
in this
it's kind of on her own move.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give my scores. I didn't want to give them to slow everything down, but endurance, I gave her a 9. I didn't give her a perfect 10, but I do agree that she never slowed down. I mean, she took some stabs. She got beat up quite a bit, but she never slowed down. Evasion, solid 7. Agree with y'all on that one. Luck, solid 5. I agree. I don't think it played any part in this movie.
Yeah.
Weapon skill, I gave her an 8 because everything she picked up, she was deadly with. Fully agree with that. I don't think she picked up the right stuff at times, but she did pick up stuff and used it very well.
But again, to y'all's point, she really made use of
whatever she
made
grabbed.
Weapons. She made weapons, which is what I didn't think about. Like she made weapons out of stuff. It was smart.
Absolutely. Intuition, I gave her a solid 8. I was higher than the rest of y'all were. I think throughout the movie, in the conversation she had, she was always right. Like the conclusions she came to throughout the movie were correct. Even when she was having sex with the killer and then thinking maybe he's still the killer, she was right.
Except for Cotton Weary. Let's say that one.
Yeah, she messed up on Cotton.
True. That's true.
That's true. And then influence, I gave her a 6. So I was right down the middle of the road with that. I don't think it played a big part, but I think there were times when it was really important for her to understand what was being told to her and the information she was being given, whether it was from Dewey or Randy or whoever. So we have a grand total. Jamie's going to hate it. Any guesses where Miss Sydney Prescott landed from 1 to 10 as a survivor?
A 7.
That's what I was going to say, based on those. Maybe a
7.
You didn't do those calculations
7.25.
just now, or
7.25.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a program for that. I just plug it in.
Excel sheet.
Yeah, I've got an Excel sheet with all my functions into it. So our first survivor of Camp Wicked Wild, a solid 7.2.
That's a solid. It's a solid.
I'll make sure to give everybody else like 2.
You're going to sandbag everybody else.
That's rude and ignorant. I'm giving everybody 10s, Jamie. We're going to cancel each other out.
No, but hearing Dave's thing, I know.
Still doing the Sharon Stone.
I was
That's
like,
my new thing.
thinking, I want to just because I'm me and we know me, that when we said this was our theme, I had to go with Sydney because she is my number one. But it really did crush me not to pick Gray Samara Weaving for Ready or Not, because I have to give her props because she is my second favorite. I know she's not like a series genre. But she is my second favorite final girl. So she's the runner up. I wish we had space for her in this camp. We do not, but my shout out to her because I fucking love her.
And because it's spooky season, maybe Jamie will comment on one of our posts, maybe this post when this movie review comes out with her costume as the Ready or Not.
Okay, sure. Asking you shall receive.
It's very cool. I mean, it is down to the dirt. It is film correct. It's the second best version of that costume I saw that year.
Was the first me wearing it?
Oh no, I know what Dave's referencing.
I also know what Dave's referencing.
Oh my god.
Too soon?
Hey,
well, you are 4 years removed. Like,
hey Jamie, I'll tell you what. Because I'm team
second place in a Fangoria contest. What?
No, because I'm team Jamie all the way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I will put my vote in now for next year's Camp Wicked Wild to be Camp Wicked Samara Weaving. We only
is it
make
only
that work.
Samara Weaving
We do
movies?
4. Yeah,
we
she
only
only does
cover-
horror. I mean, she does a lot of horror.
So, like,
She really
Scream,
does, like,
that means we
5
have to watch Scream
we only
7
do
or
4.
6 again.
Oh yes,
Unfortunately. Ready or
There's
not.
enough with that.
Babysitter. You either watch the
Babysitter is a great
Babysitter.
one. Mayhem, is that the one? The office building.
Yep.
So there we go. Mayhem, The Babysitter, Ready or Not, maybe Scream 6 or
Guns Akimbo.
Guns Akimbo.
I don't really like Jamie.
That's a good version of her character.
There's
another
one coming out right now, but it's like that silent act,
Oh yeah.
where like nobody speaks. Don't it doesn't matter. But one coming out like right now. They just released a trailer for it. Anyway.
So thanks everybody for listening. We hope you are excited about Camp Wicked Wild and have a great October. That's the main thing that we wish for you and all of your spooky friends. I think Tammy's absolutely right. We still know that the community of us that are other are out there, and we wish our brothers and sisters out there a great spooky season, that you find some fun people around you to enjoy all of these little treasures of horror that we've all come to cherish and love. If you want to follow us, you can do that on our social media. We're on X at Wicked Wild We Are, Slasher, the horror only community at Wicked Wild We Are there as well, Instagram at Wicked Wild Pod, and you can find videos of all of our reviews and all of our fun campfire tales on YouTube at the Wicked Wild Podcast. And speaking of campfire tales, Eli, what are we following up this same week? Because this will come out on Monday. Mm-hmm. Your Camp Wicked or your campfire tale will come out on Thursday. You're getting 2 weeks during spooky season. What are we doing for Scream?
Well, I when we talked about Scream, I got to thinking. After Scream, there's not been a lot of great slashers to come out after that. Memorable ones that may one day climb to the pantheon. Even right now, as I'm saying this, they still doing what I can think of as Art the Clown that has any chance of making it to the pantheon as of now. That's been like, so you figure since the 90s to now, there's one
you're right.
guy.
Yep.
So,
and I don't even know if I would really call him like a proper slasher, not in like a way that's like no, I just think he's completely different. Like he's a torturer. Like he's not even like a proper like slasher. Like he's just like a different, like, I don't know.
Tomato.
Is she related to me? I don't even understand. I'm not calling him saying he's
I agree though. He's as much demon or alien than he is slasher.
Yeah, he's like a little bit more of like I don't know. He's different to me. But anyway.
That's what I mean. There's been so many that he's the only other one that qualifies right now.
Icon. Let's just say horror. I don't even want to use the term icon. You know what I'm trying to say? Like a design, an icon, whatever. Another collectible person. It's got Ghostface. He is right, kind of Ghostface. Art. I don't know. Is the Jeeper Creeper in there?
So, God, no, he's full lame. So once again, your boy is he's gonna come and save the world.
Sam is in there. Yeah.
I'm going into lore and legend, and I'm gonna find some, and I'm gonna get together my American Idol like panel again.
Oh boy.
We're going to pick the next horror, the newest horror icon that hopefully from our scoring and rating system, we can figure out one that they could make a movie on, and of course pay us to do so.
Of course, pay us to do so.
Cryptids, you're saying. And if Donkey Lady is in there, I swear to God.
No, not cryptids. I'm finding legends and lores about killers.
Oh, okay. Then we can
human killers.
Okay.
Maybe human.
They could be super. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe supernatural. Who knows? All I know is it's going to be up to you guys to figure out who we need to push so we can start this train again of us making these movies and some of these memorable people.
Like the last Idol thing we did where we just picked our
but instead of weird butthole eye ghost,
pick that one. I picked one of the women that
we're gonna pick killers.
Men.
The one with the Louboutins.
Yeah, the one with the red shoes or whatever. I picked
That's
that
right.
one
The
or whatever.
clickety clackety shoe woman. I think.
Yeah, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I think she was Japanese and she just destroys cheating men or some nonsense. Whichever.
No, the
Don't
butthole
they
I
all?
goes was Japanese. That one, the one you picked was from like Africa. It's just for some reason this ghost lady like to wear heels and go to schools when you're taking a poop, and like click her heels outside your stall because she didn't like it when you were pooping during class.
I just know I took extensive notes on that one. It was like 3 pages and notes.
Burn through a journal in that one.
So you bring over company one day and they're like, you're like, oh, let me just go freshen up for a minute. Then we go out to lunch or whatever. And like your company, like they look down and they see a black notebook on your coffee table and they're like, what's that? And just on the front, they're like, clickety clackety, lady. Open the first page. If you use the bathroom, take a poop before or during class. They're like, what the fuck is this?
She turns the page and it just says in big scritched out letters,
butthole. Like,
is it a butthole eye or an eye butthole?
Yeah. And then
that's the question that we had to get to the bottom of. And
then they flip the next page. It says Godzilla penis fish question mark.
It's a butthole eye though. We established the answer was.
We got to the bottom of that one.
Jamie comes out and goes, oh, I'm ready to go to lunch. And no one is there. Doors wide open. Notebook spilled on the floor. And Jamie goes, not again.
So thanks everybody.
Put that away.
Oh, so thanks everybody for listening. We hope you had a good time. We enjoy this movie. We enjoy everything that it has brought us since. Eli, what if they had remade this movie? I was thinking about this because they've gone through all this remake stuff. What if they had gone total new direction, remade the original Scream, but replaced all the characters with characters from Super Mario Brothers? Would you have been on board for that? That's the ultimate crossover.
Oh, that'd be crazy because like Waluigi and
Waluigi,
whatever, and Mario or Wario, not Wario, Wario.
That's
Stu
they would be the red herrings. But what would be crazy, right, is if it was actually Mario and Luigi, and that's why you find out they've been chasing the princess the whole time, not to save her,
to kill her,
but because her mom slept with Mario's dad and made Mario's mom leave. Whoa.
Sounds like it could be fun. Or maybe it's just a pipe scream.
Oh my God. Okay.
Good night, everybody.
The worst.